Before exporting the model to Substance Painter, we still need to do some smoothing. Look, right-click on the model, Shade Smooth. In the new version there is also an option Shade After Smooth. This function does the following. It puts Shade Smooth and also include here in the Object Data Properties, in the Normal section, put this check mark. And then I see what happens. Here behind the sock is 30 degrees. That is, those angles that are less than 30 degrees, they become so rigid, but I suggest manually set these stiffeners. Where 30 degrees, we put 180. That is, everything will be smoothed completely and we will manually set the stiffness. Go to Edit Mode, turn on the edges. So we turn on the edges and select these points. They will coincide with the seams that we planned for the UV map. And here, the right button, we click Mark Sharp. Exit Edit Mode and see that there is no smoothing here anymore. There is a sharp joint, a sharp transition. Also assign here. Also, you don't need to do it here because we made a smaller chamfer, which will allow to make a smoothing here. So let's not do it here, let it be rounded. We will have to make sure to do this down here. See, you can turn on the display in this menu. Show creases, sharp, bevels and seams. Seams we assigned and they are marked in red. So that it does not interfere with us, we can turn them off for now. To see sharp. Sharp are marked with the blue color. Here we have marked here and here. We can also assign here where we had a seam. Along the contour here you can try to make sharp, and here we will have a clear transition between the wood and the handle. From the bottom we made such a chamfer and it will be a smooth transition. That is, we cannot make a sharp edge here. From the bottom we also made a sharp chamfer. Here is a such chamfer for a smooth transition, but there will still be a sharp edge. It is better to mark it manually. Look how I highlight. You can press Alt and some parts of the contour will be highlighted. Shift Alt, next part. Shift Alt, next part. Shift Alt, another one, like that. Here I'm going to assign Mark Sharp, like that. And we will have a clear edge here. For example, you cannot make this upper part clear sharp, and it will be sharp only somewhere here. And here will be a smooth transition. It's at your discretion, as you want and do it. There must be a sharp blade, so choose a blade, follow the contour. And here, as you remember, we made a detour, so I will also make a detour here. Mark sharp. There is a sharp edge inside, two edges here. You can select this and click Mark Sharp. Then here the shading will be more beautiful, more clear. Yes, go further. Select from here to here, then here. And inside, mark sharp. Now here. And maybe where we had a stitch, the seam was somewhere here and here. Mark sharp. That's it. Let it be sharp at the bottom, and here we also have a sharp transition, so we can make sharp. Everything else let it be smooth, because here you see we made a chamfer specially to have such a rounding, smooth in between these two planes. So here we did it on purpose to smooth it out. Maybe here it will be necessary to mark sharp. Then the shading here will be a little better. And we'll also have a line along which we made as the sharpening. This line. On it I will also make mark sharp. See, and on the other side as well. Mark sharp. Yes, look, we have the axe ready and we can export it. We select this model, it is Viking Axe LP, low poly. We can assign the material, so that is already assigned in the Substance Painter, and call it something like Axe Vikings. That is, I named the material by the name of the axe. It is empty, I did not set any parameters, I just threw it here, and it will already be signed by default in Substance Painter. Go to File, Export, FBX. Check Selected Objects, so that we export only the object that we have selected, and sign it as Axe Viking LP, low poly. Or you can sign low like this, and as you like. I like to sign LP. Export. Now we need to export the high poly model. I will hide this one, turn on high poly, and when we sculpted this model, we had it in shade flat mode. Let's set it to shade smooth. And here we will not select any sharp edges. That is, in normals we will not put auto smooth because this is a high poly model and there are basically a lot of polygons and they smoothly round even in places where there should be sharp edges. This is normal. Also we have a sharp edge here, because we merged two models, but they have separated mesh. It's okay, it can stay that way. If you want to merge the mesh, you can do this. Add the remesh modifier. Here select, for example, 001 or even less. Of course, the texture that we did should be preserved. I think we did 0001. Well, that's it. Then you see here the mesh is connected, the wood and the metal part into one. If you want, you can do it. If not, leave it as it was. And then on this modifier you can put smooth shading. It will do smoothing. Basically, I guess I will leave this modifier, and when we export the model, the modifier is applied. That is, we can now manually apply it, but then we cannot roll back. And now we can turn off remesh or delete it, and we will have our original model. But when we leave the modifier, we can export the model, and in the exported file this modifier will be applied. So I sign HP high poly and do the export. The selected objects checkbox is already checked. If it is not, be sure to check it so that only high poly is exported. Export. And now we go to Substance Painter. Here we are in Substance Painter, and let's start from the beginning. Click File, New. Here we set up a new project. Here we have blanks, templates. Choose the metallic roughness template. This is the usual standard PBR material. Then comes the file. Here is the select button, and we will need to select the low poly file. First select low poly, our main object that will be exported to the game. Select it. Here you can choose the size of the texture that will be 2038, let it be. Normal map format, this is a little bit in different programs, differently used maps of normals. But it plays a big difference if you export incorrectly. Choose the wrong format that you need. It can be changed, for example in Photoshop in the texture to invert the green channel, or in the engines themselves there is such function. For example, in Unreal Engine, when you import the texture into engine, there is a function to change the green channel. So it's not a problem if you make a mistake here and choose the wrong format, no big deal. I choose DirectX usually. I don't put any checkboxes here and click OK. Our model was imported here. I will not tell you what to press, how to rotate the model. All this can be customized for yourself. Or look in the settings, there are shortcuts, that is, case, you can customize for yourself. I customize for myself, so if I call what I press, then everything will be different for you, so it makes no sense. And here also the case for the mouse and set and everyone can have them in their own way. So I am not going to focus on this. I'll just tell you what to do. Look, texture set list. If you don't have it, you will need to enable it. And where is it turned on? It is turned on somewhere. If you close it, then look, the texture set list menu appears, opens, and you can move it somewhere else. The same with these tabs and properties paint if you have a layer selected here on which to paint. If it is not, then a button appears here on the right and you can open it and move it like this. I just put it in the wrong place. That's all. Go to the texture set settings tab. Also, if it is not there, you can find it here and paste it, for example, here. Texture set settings. Go down a little bit lower. Look for the Bake Mesh Maps button. Here are our main settings for baking. By default, the Common tab is selected. Here you select the format. Also, I will choose 2038. If you do not have a high poly mesh, you want to bake the model on itself. Then you just put this checkbox, use low poly mesh as high poly mesh, and that's it. You can click Bake selected texture. If you have high poly, and we do, then we press this button and select our high poly model, HP. If you have something badly baked, you will need to try to change this distance. Either increase or decrease it depends on the specific situation. By default, everything remains as it is. We don't need ID, we disable it. All the rest can be left. Thickness too, let it be. I only disable ID. Everything else we need, and click Bake selected texture. Here is baking from high poly to low poly. That's how you see here all the reliefs and all the maps that we will need. Also, smart materials have functions that use these maps. There, if you saw, some black and white are baked, shadow map, elevation map, and so on. All these materials use them for their functions. When everything is baked, click OK. And here we see that we have a normal map: wall space normal, ambient occlusion, curvature, position and thickness. Back to layers, we can see what our axe looks like. Shift right click I spin to spin the lightning. That is, if it is dark on the other side you want to lighten, shift right click and lighten. But again, I'm not going to spell on control functions. I'm just going to talk about texturing. Layers, we have layer 1 here by default. We don't need it, we delete it. On the left we have a tab with materials. Select Smart Materials and look for the wood material here. I like to make a sequence of overlapping materials from the bottom to the top. That is, if we have wood at the very bottom, the metal you see is on the top of wood, and the leather handle is also above the wood. Then I will make the wood the first layer. You can drag like this either here on the model or directly into the layers like this. And look what nuance there is. That we have fibers going like this horizontally, but they should go vertically, right? For now, ignore the metal part and the handle, look at the wooden base. Open this material, there are a bunch of settings that we can edit. First we can change the color. Select this base layer, go down to Where Property Fill, find the color and we can change it if you want to. Okay, that's it. Also fibers. We can turn on and off some layers and see what they mean. Select this fiber layer and find at the very top where property fill is projection. Now the UV projection option is set. That is how the texture is deployed on our square with UV map. For example, I show you how. That is how this piece lies here, so it is applied. To align it, we switch to triplanar projection, that's it. And we have a control right here. If I don't appear, you can turn it on. There is a drag, rotate and zoom. I turn on the rotation, turn the camera like this from the side and turn it 90 degrees. Or you can not 90 degrees, but so that it coincides with the direction of the handle. And also let's look from the side. Turn the camera like this from the side, and these fibers that are on the side also turn to the side by 90 degrees. Now as you can see, the fibers go like this. But such fibers are not only on this layer, but also further. Now we will look for where they are. Here is another layer, and see here there are two sort of choices. The main material, which means the color, and a little bit of higher. And there is a mask, and in this mask there it is function. The function by which it applies this mask. Here we select this option, and in it we find the projection. We change it to triplanar projection. And we do the same procedure. We turn the camera to the side, we turn the gizmo 90 degrees, or even a little bit more, so that the fibers go like this. Then in the side view, I turn it 90 degrees more, and now we have these fibers running along the handle. That's it, we can go out and rotate our material. This is wood material. And also look at the moment. There was a setting that is responsible for shading. We can edit it. There are also two choices here. Choose the second mask. This is the mask and its function. This function still has other parameters, for example amount. We can see which parameters are responsible for what. Yes, maybe that's not it. No, that's not it. I'm a little bit confused. Here's the grunge path. Select the mask on this layer, and there's dirt, which means dirt. Yes, there it is, indeed. It has a level setting and it has a contrast. That is, you can edit it for yourself, how contaminated or clean it will be. Yeah, well, let it be. If you don't want the handle to be dirty, you can just turn it off, but then it doesn't look very realistic. Now look at this moment. To make our layer with the wood appear only on the wooden handle, we need to add a mask to it. Select this whole folder and add black mask. We have now created a black mask, and look, if black is like darkness, it hides, and white is like light, like a flashlight, it shows. So with white color we need to draw the part where we want to have a wooden handle. But it is inconvenient to draw like that with a brush. We can do it more accurately. Look, on the left we have tools. After you select the mask, we have active tools. Here we have the polygon fill tool. I choose polygon fill. It has switches in the settings. That is to fill polygons. We can click on a specific polygon and fill it with white color. If we click this button, it will switch to black, and then we can erase it. There is also mesh fill. If we click on an object, it will fill the entire object. And there is the last function, UV chunk fill. That is, it will fill only on the pieces that we selected. That is, remember, we assign seams, and along these seams it will fill. If you open our pieces here, it will fill the whole pieces to the end. So we find the wooden parts and click on them. There we have covered the wood. Now let's assign the leather handle. And by the way, we have wood here. Switch to polygons, and here we have a little bit of wood. You can also do it here if you have such places. Or you don't have to, it's up to you. Okay, now we need to create a second layer. Now in the Smart Materials section we are looking for leather. Now I will demonstrate. There is some here. Here it seems leather calf grain is a good material for leather. Drag it into layers but above the wood. That's it, so that we have two separate layers. And now for the leather handle we will also set a mask. Add a black mask. Select fill along the seams. And fill, but remember we had a piece of wood here, so I'm going to switch to black. Yes, back. You need to switch to black and select fill by polygon. And like that, fill this part, leave the wood there, like that. Now let's go to the material settings and see what settings are here. In principle the handle already looks normal, but we can add styling later in a separate layer. I will show you how to do it later. Here you can choose the color, if you want to change the color. You can also adjust the width here. Look, there is also roughness here, and here it was 0.5. Let it be 0.5. And there is also dirt. There is also dirt here. Dirt here in these places, and its color can be selected. You can select the color of the dirt. It will be so green. Well, I'll do Ctrl Z, undo. Let it be, I am happy with this color. Styling then I will show. It will be very interesting and useful how to do styling separately, manually. And let's also find the right material for the blade. Steel dark edge. Wow, what a nice one. Look, there is this material. If it suits you, you can keep it, or you can look for another one. There are a lot of different options. There is also this one. Yes, there is a dirt color in the settings of this material. The dirt color can be selected, and separately select the breadth on the dirt, and you can also adjust its contrast level and so on. And the color itself, of course. Or maybe you will find some more suitable material for your axe. Let's see if there is something interesting. Here we have iron forged old. Let me remove this material, put iron forged old. Oh, this one seems to be the best choice. So we can also assign a mask to it. Add a black mask, take the seam fill and fill all the part of the blade. Internal also. That's it, but I want to add another material on the metal where we have sharpening, because here when it's sharpened it is more shiny, so let's add another material. For example, there is a silver armor or steel. I add it from above, it falls from above, and we will also assign it a black mask. I'm going to select pure polygons and like this. I'm going to paint over some of polygons with a frame. If we select with a frame, they are also selected on the other side, so be careful. This part is also painted over, so turn the camera exactly perpendicular and fill it carefully. I'll make these parts of another metal. But perhaps with exceptions, here let it be all black. You can click single clicks and paint polygons one by one. Well, I think it will be really realistic. That there is a darkened material, and here is a sharpening. Now we will open the settings of this material and see what is here. Yes, there are such scratches here, let them be. Then there are such scratches. Base, select the base, and here there is roughness. Try to twist and roughness a little closer to black to make it smoother. Well, in principle it already looks like there is a more sharpened part. Okay, now let's move on styling. It will be necessary to style the wood and the handle, and it will give a more this look. Well, now you will see. Add a separate layer, you can add a fill layer, and you can add a folder. Add a folder, it fell somewhere unclear where. I put it out to the top, to the very top. I will sign that it will be style wood. Style for wood. and in this folder we create a fill layer. It also fell from above, we drag it into the folder here. So now we can assign a black mask to this whole folder. And we can copy the mask from the wood texture. Here I select the mask, right click, copy mask. And here paste into mask. That's it. So that we have only the wood painted. Now we have here a gray material. Here it is, and we will not adjust it. Let's choose this approximately the color of the wood. The color of the wood is orange, but we will choose not a dark one, but a light orange. I will also remove the roughness so that is so matte. And here we add the generator. First add a black mask, and on the black mask add generator. In the generator select there is a button here, and in the drop-down menu select curvature. There you go, look. We already have such a more stylized tree. We can edit the color here, we can choose white. We can choose whatever we want, but so that it matches the tree. For example, if the tree is brown, then just the same but lighter color. And here you can also make transparency. That is not 100% on the Ether folder, but for example a little bit to reduce by amount 50%. At the bottom you will see the original texture, and at the top there will be a slightly stylized pattern. Go to our layer, select the mask and select curvature, and turn the balance knobs. There is balance, blur, that is blur, and contrast. These three knobs can basically select and adjust what you want. I add a little blur. Balance well, about 0.54. Contrast can be done, you can not to do it, it is up to your discretion. Yes, now this layer we can copy completely with the right button. I do duplicate layers and rename it to Style Leather. And in this mask we will now copy the mask of our skin. I select the layer where the skin is, select the mask, right click, copy mask, and then right click here, paste into mask. And now we have this material assigned to the handle. But here we open and we can choose a different color. That is, I choose the material itself. Here I choose the color. If the handle is brown, well, like wood in principle, but a little darker, then you can choose a more gray, brownish gray color. That's it. Then I switch to mask, select curvature, our generator, and here I tweak some parameters to make it look nicer. There you go, look what stylizing we've given to our axe. Maybe I'm a little bit unhappy with the color here, or maybe you need to change the color in the wood handle itself. And do not forget that you can change the transparency of this stylized mask as much as you need, like this. If you are done, I'm done, and you can add something else, tweak something, and after you're done, you need to export all these textures. We have one set of materials, that is Axe Vikings, the one that we assigned on our object in Blender, on low poly. Here we have low poly, and here we set the material Axe Vikings. Now click File, Export Textures, and here we have global settings. Choose where we want to export it. After that, there is template. I advise you to choose PBR metallic roughness. It is a standard template. There are also templates for Unity, for Unreal Engine, and so on. I choose the usual metallic roughness, PNG file type, and here everything remains as it was. Go to the settings of the material itself. Here we are offered to export color, roughness, metallic, and normal. I disabled height and emission. Emission is the backlight. Height it is not really needed. For the game in principle it is not needed. Enough of these four materials and click Export. Everything it says here is green, that the texture have been exported, and we can go back to the Blender. In the Blender, I turn off the high poly model display, turn on the low poly display with my eye. I select, and you can either move this menu bar where you have a time code. If you do not have this menu bar, then right-click horizontal split somewhere and split the screen like this, for example, and then switch to shader editor. Yes, I don't need the timeline, so I right-click on the section, join areas, and close it like this. Now here are material settings. Let's switch to material preview, this button view shading. There is also render mode full with lighting from the scene, but I like the preview option. Here you already see our material, all our settings. Principled BSDF, this is the usual material. Here you can choose the color and adjust the metallic and adjust the roughness. All this can be adjusted here, but you can also load the textures that we made in Substance Painter. How to load them? You can press Shift-A through the search for image texture, then open, select the texture, that's it, and plug it into the correct slot. And such action we need to do 4. But I suggest another method. Let's enable the add-on. I went to Edit Preferences, Add-ons, and find in the search for Node Wrangler. Put a tick on this add-on, close. We have additional functions. I select Principled BSDF, press Ctrl-Shift-T. A menu opens in which we are offered to select textures. I select this texture with Shift. I select the last one, so that all 4 textures are selected, and click Load. And this add-on connects all 4 textures to the slots where you need. Approach and see if everything is normal. Not everything is normal, because in the Substance Painter we choose DirectX, and in the Blender OpenGL, so we need to invert the green color. And now I will show you how to do it. Where shading we find the texture normal. select it, go to Texture Paint, and this texture here should already be loaded. If it is not loaded, then select here on the right, you can switch. Select normal and here image invert green channel. Let's now turn on shading here and see what changes. Look here, I press image, invert green channel. So we have changed that the lighting has become correct. So this relief should be so that the light falls from the right side. I will find out where the light falls from. Let's go to layout and here I will show you. Look, open this menu. And here we have world opacity. We turn on our background, also blur. And now we turn rotation. Here we see where the light is coming from. Here I see that the sun is there. Now I rotate it so that the sun is rotating. Now it's on the right side. And indeed all these elements are illuminated on the right side. And on the left side is kind of a shadow. So it's all alright. And to make it easier to navigate where you have the sun, you can turn on HDRI preview here, and a circle appears in which you see the reflection. That is, this reflection should coincide with the reflection of our object on the scene. That is, if the sun on the right here, then it should be on the right here. If it is on left, then it should be on left here. And when we rotate, we see where the light falls from. Now on this ball we see the illumination on the left, and here it really falls on the left. So we are good. Well, congratulations on your finished model. You can export it into the game. It turns out that you have a file like AXWikings LP FBX. This is the file that you imported into Substance Painter, the very first. This is a file that is intended for the game. You import this file also for textures, and already in the engine itself you configure the material from these textures and assign it to the model. Well, see you soon!